Is there anyone else who would like to introduce themselves this morning?
Hare Krishna Mataji Dandot Pranam, all wish to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Shamaguri Devi Dasi from Charlotte.
Good morning. Hare Krishna, Shamagori, Devi Dasi, Dandavat Pranams. Thank you for joining this morning and giving your valuable association. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Mataji, we can start recording now.
Okay. Hare Krishna and welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa Call. This morning, we have with us a very special guest, His Holiness Jayadvita Swami Maharaj, to enlighten us on the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 31, Verse 11. But first, I'd like to hand over the call to Flavia Mataji to give a brief introduction of Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for allowing me to do this introduction. My name is Flavia from Atlanta. Let me start by saying we're so happy to have Jayadvita Swami with us today. Editor, writer, publisher, and teacher, is a disciple of His Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Swami has taught in over 70 countries and has written several books and served as an editor or assistant editor for nearly all the books of Srila Prabhupada's published during Srila Prabhupada's lifetime. Swami has received initiation from Srila Prabhupada in 1968 at the age of 18. The first task assigned to him was to staple booklets. He later went on to typing manuscripts, transcribing Srila Prabhupada's dictations for books, and then typesetting, proofreading, managing book production, editing, taking part in the governance of Srila Prabhupada's publishing house. Swami has lectured extensively at colleges and universities, especially in the United States. Excuse me. In 1978, he accepted the order of renounced life sannyasa. In 1985 and 86, he spent a year and a half traveling with a party of pilgrims on a padayatra, a journey on foot through various states of India, stopping in different towns and villages nightly. In 1987, he co-founded the Vrindavan Institute for Higher Learning and for Higher Education. From 1988 until 2017, he served as the director of Srila Prabhupada's publishing house, Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. From 1991 through most of 1998, he served as editor-in-chief of Back to Godhead magazine, for which he has been assistant editor for several years. From 2008 until 2018, he served as a director of the Bhaktivedanta Archives, an official repertory of historical records from Srila Prabhupada's life. Of 3-volume transcriptions and commentary of 16th century Sanskrit philosophical and devotional work by Srila Siddhanta Goswami, and by the same editor, Sri Krishna Leela. To this day, Jayadvita Swami continues to teach the philosophy and culture of Krishna consciousness. We are so pleased to welcome you today with us. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for giving your valuable time and association this morning. Will you please take over the call?
Thank you very much. Do you have kirtan before?
We don't usually, but I'm sure it would be welcome.
Yeah, kirtan is, Jiva Goswami says before and after anything, kirtan. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnuvad Panamansa Pariprajapacharya Stotra Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Shama Kunda Radha Kunikiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai, Navadip Tham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Where we have Srimad Bhagavatam, but I was also asked to speak something about Devananda Pandit, whose disappearance is today. So we'll read from Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is Adi Lila chapter 10. Bhagavati Devananda Vakreshara Kripate Bhagavater Bhakti Artha Paila Prabhuete. Devananda Pandit was a professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam, but by the mercy of Vakreshara Pandit and the grace of the Lord, he understood the devotional interpretation of the Bhagavatam. Purport: in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Kanda, chapter 21, it is stated that Devananda Pandit and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's father, Visharada, lived in the same village. Devananda Pandit was a professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam, but Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like his interpretation of it. In the present town of Navdvip, formerly known as Kulia, Lord Chaitanya showed such mercy to him that he gave up the Mayavadi interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam and learned how to explain Srimad Bhagavatam in terms of bhakti. Formerly, when Devananda was expounding the Mayavadi interpretation, Srivas Thakur was once present in his meeting, and when he began to cry, Devananda's students drove him away. Some days later, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed that way, and when he met Devananda, he chastised him severely because of his Mayavad interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam. At that time, Devananda had little faith in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an incarnation of Lord Krishna. But one night, sometime later, Vakreshwara Pandit was a guest in his house, and when he explained the science of Krishna, Devananda was convinced about the identity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, he was induced to explain Srimad Bhagavatam according to the Vaishnava understanding. In the Gaura Ganodesh Dipika, it is described that he was formerly Bhaguri Muni, the Sabha Pandit, who recited Vedic literatures in the house of Nanda Maharaj. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Datati Shapadantikam Pande Hang Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Pravijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vancha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This Devananda Pandit was self-controlled. He was very sober, saintly person by his demeanor. And so, which is typical, we find that sometimes that the Bhagavatam reciters, they're very saintly people and very sadhus by appearance. But their recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam is not done in the line of devotional service. Their profession to recite Srimad Bhagavatam, they earn a livelihood that way, and typically they give some Mayavadi interpretation, Mayavadi twist, and Devananda Pandit was like that, very learned, very self-controlled, very sober, very saintly by his natural character, but not in the line of devotional service, in the line of professional reciters. So that when Srivas Thakur came one time and was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, it seems that he wasn't so interested in the Mayavadi interpretation, but by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, he began to cry. And Devananda Pandit's students were criticizing him, speaking ill of him. And Devananda Pandit didn't say anything. It means more or less approved. So that was an offense for which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu condemned him. And of course, the Mayavad interpretation was rejected. Mayavadi Pasha Shunile Hoy Sarvanash. Anyone who hears Mayavadi interpretation is spoiled. So, Vaishnava Bhagavata Paradiya, Bhagavata Sthane. Lord Chaitanya taught that one should hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a person Bhagavatam, from a person who's in the line of devotional service to the Lord. So this Devananda Pandit was not in that line, but later he, by the association and the mercy of Vikreshwara Pandit, he got the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then he became a regular devotee and a qualified reciter and relisher of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Now in Srimad Bhagavatam, our verse is 4:31:10. Okay. 4:31:10 and 4:31:11. Let's see. I had 10 in mind, but let me see what you told me. $11. Okay. So let's go to 11. Yes, that's correct. Shrutena tapasava kim vacho peace chittafiti pi buddhyava kim nipunaya balanendriya radhasa. Yeah, I don't think I'll read the word for word. Without devotional service, what is the meaning of severe austerities, the process of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses? Purport. From the Upanishads, we learn, Nayam atma pravachanena labhyo nametaya nabahuna shrutena yame vaisha vrinute tena labhyas tasyaisha atma vrinute tunum swam. Our relationship with the Supreme Lord is never advanced by simple study of the Vedas. There are many Mayavadi sannyasis fully engaged in studying the Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, and Upanishads, but unfortunately, they cannot grasp the real essence of knowledge. In other words, they do not know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What then is the use in studying all the Vedas if one cannot grasp the essence of the Vedas, Krishna? The Lord confirms in Bhagavad Gita, Vedaischa sarvairaham eva vedyaha. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. There are many religious systems wherein penances and austerities are greatly stressed, but at the end, no one understands Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is therefore no point in such penance, tapasya. If one has actually approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he does not need to undergo severe austerities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is understood through the process of devotional service. In the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, devotional service is explained as Rajaguhyam, the king of all confidential knowledge. There are many good reciters. Just keep it there. There are many good reciters of Vedic literature, and they recite works such as the Ramayana, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes these professional readers manifest very good scholarship and exhibit word jugglery. Unfortunately, they are never devotees of the Supreme Lord. Consequently, they cannot impress upon the audience the real essence of knowledge, Krishna. There are also many thoughtful writers and creative philosophers, but despite all their learning, if they cannot approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are simply useless mental speculators. There are many sharply intelligent people in this material world, and they discover so many things for sense gratification. They also analytically study all the material elements, but despite their expert knowledge and expert scientific analysis of the whole cosmic manifestation, their endeavors are useless because they cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as our senses are concerned, there are many animals, both beasts and birds, who are very expert in exercising their senses more keenly than human beings. For example, vultures and hawks can go very high in the sky, but can see a small body on the ground very clearly. This means that their eyesight is so keen that they can find an eatable corpse from a great distance. Certainly, their eyesight is much keener than human beings, but this does not mean that their existence is more important than that of a human being. Similarly, dogs can smell many things from a far distance. Many fish can understand by the power of sound that an enemy is coming. All these examples are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. If one's senses cannot help him attain the highest perfection of life, realization of the Supreme, they are all useless. Shrutena tapasava kim vachobis chittavitibhi budhya va kim nipunaya balanendriya radhasa. A whole slew of useless things are being described here. The conclusion doesn't come till a couple of verses ahead. It's all sort of a compound sentence, or in fact, where will we find it? We'll find it in text 12. Nayatratma prado harihi. Unless one brings one to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, harihi. Yatra atma prada harihi. Unless one understands Krishna, all these things are useless. Shrutena. Shrutena means Vedic education, or education generally, or hearing. We hear from so many professors, from scientists, from this or that, or we hear from Vedic knowledge. Best is Vedic knowledge. But just hearing and hearing won't bring us to the conclusion. Nayam atma pravachanena labhyana medhaya na bahuna shrutena. Bahuna shrutena means by lots and lots of hearing. Namedhaya, not by lots of hearing, not by great intelligence, medhaya. Na pravachanena, not by hearing lectures. It won't work. Yame vaisha pravinute tena labhyas tas yaisha atma pravinute tunuswa. When he reveals himself, when the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, reveals himself, then one can understand him. And to whom does he reveal himself? Bhaktya ma avijanati yavanyas chasmatatvata. He reveals himself to his devotee. So finally, one has to come to that point of understanding Krishna. Vedaistra sarvara ahameva vedya. Otherwise, all that hearing, all that education, useless. Shrutena and tapasa, austerity. There are religious systems where people undergo severe austerities. Sometimes the followers of Lord Shiva undergo severe tapasya, or the Jains. They particularly value austerity. One time, it must have been in Rajasthan, when I was on Padayatra, we visited a Jain temple. And the pujari, the priest, was showing us around. And on the altar, they have these tirthankars with the Jain saints. And they are depicted undergoing severe tapasya. So you see them sitting in yogic postures, and they're emaciated. It's all bones practically, because they were undergoing severe tapasya. We hear about just plucking the hairs out of the body, plucking out the hairs from the beard, not barely eating, barely drinking. So severe tapasya, and you see them on the altar. So when we left the temple, I asked the pujari that what was their goal? What was the purpose for which they underwent so much austerity? So he said the purpose was moksha, liberation. That was their goal. And I asked him, and then what? Moksha ke baad kya hai? After liberation, then what? And he said, moksha ke baad kuch nahi. After liberation, nothing. Simply impersonal. To be liberated from material existence, but not to enter into the spiritual existence, not to realize Krishna. So according to this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, what is the use? What is the use of so much austerity if one doesn't come to the point of understanding Krishna? There's a verse from Narada Pancharatra that Srila Prabhupada used to quote, Aradito yadi hari tapasa tata kim naradito yadi haris tapasa tata kim. If one worships Krishna, if one engages in devotional service to Krishna, then what is the need of any austerity? Prabhupada mentions that in the purport. If one has achieved devotional service, what's the need of undergoing austerity? And naradito, and if one doesn't engage in devotional service, then what is the use of any austerity? Aradito yadi haris tapasa tata kim. Naradito yadi haris tapasa tata kim. If one is engaged in devotional service, what is the need of tapasya? And if one is not engaged in devotional service, what is the use of tapasya? Antar behis yadi hari tapasa tata kim. Nantar bahir yadi haris tapasa tata kim. And if one can see Krishna everywhere, within and without, what is the need of any austerity? And nantar bahir, and if one doesn't see Krishna within and without, what is the use of austerity? The austerity is meant to elevate one, but if one doesn't come to the point of devotional service, it's a useless waste of time. And if one has come to the point of devotional service, then austerity is not very important. Shrutena tapasa va kim. And vachobhi. And what is the use of words? If one doesn't become Krishna conscious, then words, blah, 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 blah. In the second canto, these words and words are compared to the babble of sea waves. So many words on the internet, so many words on the television, so many words in newspapers, in books, in public gatherings and conversations, talking and talking and talking and talking. But if one doesn't become Krishna conscious, what is the use of all these words and words? And if one is Krishna conscious, then again, what is the use of all these words and words? Just by words, Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo namedasa na bahuna shrutena, not just by hearing words and words doesn't become Krishna conscious. And chitta vritti bhi, the business of the consciousness. What is the business of consciousness? Mental speculation. I think this, I think that. It seems to me this, it could be that. My hypothesis is so many ideas. But what is the use of one's mental faculties if one doesn't come to the point of Krishna consciousness? Buddhya, what is the use of one's intelligence? Buddhya va kim? Nipunaya balena. And, how does Prabhupada put it? Yes, and Nipunaya, expertise and bodily strength, and Indriya Radhasa, sensory power. Of what good are they if not engaged in the service of the Lord? In the second canto, again, toward the beginning, there's a discussion. First, the knowledge-gathering senses are mentioned, then the active senses, and the same theme, that the eyes that don't see the form of Krishna are useless, like the eyes of the peacock feather. On the peacock feather, each feather has an eye, but the feathers are useless for seeing anything. The eyes are useless for, those eyes are useless for seeing anything. So the eyes that don't see Krishna, that don't see the deity of Krishna, that don't see the form of Krishna, are useless eyes. And the ears that don't hear about Krishna are like snake holes. And the
Frozen.
Yeah, Mataji, connection has lost.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Mataji, he's not in the call, Mataji. Connection was lost.
Okay.
Should we give him time to reconnect?
He should connect again.
Shamagori Mataji, can you contact Maharaj? Do you have his number?
No, Mataji. I just have email and he doesn't check his email. He checks on certain time only. So I don't know how to contact him.
Hare Krishna Shama Gauri Mataji, on the safer side, can you just shoot him an email?
Yes.
Mhm.
What should we do, Mataji? I already sent the email. So, what can we do now?
I don't know, Mataji. I was also thinking that if the internet is not
No,
there.
no, Maharaj is back. He's
Okay.
back. Hare Krishna Maharaj, we're happy to see you back. Maharaj, you're muted.
We're good. Our internet went down here. I don't know why. So now I'm on data from my phone and we're back in action. Okay. Let's see where we left off. Yes, in the second canto, the eyes of the peacock feather. Then the nostrils are useless if they're not smelling the tulsi or flowers offered to Krishna. So the ears, the eyes, the nostrils, all the knowledge gathering senses, that the sense of touch is useless if it doesn't touch the bodies of the devotees. And then the active senses, the hands, even if they're decorated with golden bangles, are like the hands of a dead man if not engaged in the service of the Lord. The legs are like tree trunks if they don't go to the holy places associated with the personality of Godhead. So in this way, the conclusion is that just to have powerful senses, balena indriya radhasa, is useless. We see that people become very powerful. They do exercises, they work out, they drink protein powder drinks, and they develop enormous muscles, and they strut about. But what good does it do them? What will their physical strength do for them? It will be finished after some time. What happens from being on the phone? It will be finished after some time. They'll have some strength, which won't. What will it do? And then the strength will be gone finally. Also, at the time of death, their strength will be of no use. So, balena indriya radhasa. So what is the use of any of this if one is not engaged in Krishna consciousness? That's the point. The senses, the mind, the intelligence, they're all meant for engagement in devotional service, for understanding Krishna and engaging in the service of Krishna. Otherwise, all of these things are useless. One's life is useless, finally. The Narottam Das Thakur therefore sings, Manusha Janama Paya Radha Krishna Na Bhajiya Janiya Shuniya Vishakoinam. That my life is useless. Manusha Janma, I've gotten this human life, Manusha Janma Paya, but Radha Krishna Na Bhajiya. I didn't engage in the devotional service of Radha Krishna. Janiya Shuniya Vishakoinam. Therefore, I've simply been drinking poison. Knowingly, Janiya Shuniya. Just we see the people, they know that something's bad, but what the heck, They want to enjoy. They know that by stealing, they'll be put in prison, or by illicit sex, they'll risk pregnancy or venereal disease, or HIV. Janiya, they know, but Shunya, they've heard. But still, no, let me do it. Vishakoinam. Someone has told you this is poison. You know it's poison. Still you're drinking the poison. So this is our situation. We know this human life is so valuable. We've heard that it's so valuable. all the scriptures are telling us, all the saints are telling us, and still we're using this life just to, as Prabhupada said, eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy, to pursue sense gratification. That means wasting the human form of life for the same things that one could get in the form of an animal, a dog, a mosquito. So one should not waste this human form of life. One should engage it. That was the previous. We're getting things positively and negatively. Instructions go that way, positively and negatively. The Narad Muni had said, Taj Janma, this birth, Tani Karmani, Tad Ayustan Manovachaha, Nrinam Yena Hi Vishvatma, Sevyate Haririshvara. It's meant for serving Krishna. When he serves Krishna, then his mind, his words, his life, his activities are all successful. They're all perfect. Otherwise, as indicated in these verses, everything is useless, everything is spoiled. So the conclusion, therefore, is that one should engage fully in the devotional service of Krishna under proper guidance of a follower of Narad Muni. That will make our life successful. Hare Krishna. Are there some questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. Maharaj, I have one question. You are mentioning about this Janiya Shuniba Vishikhainu. So Maharaj, I personally feel that many times I know that this, say, wasting time on some new channel or any other activities is useless. But still many times not able to resist. So Maharaj, how do I practice and implement this in my life?
Well, there are different things. How do we practice? We know that this news channel or this internet, whatever it is, thing is useless, but still let me waste my time there. So what to do? Various answers. Hold on one second. Give me one moment. Anyway, we know that it's useless and still we're doing it. So what to do? On two sides one can work. One side is make some programs for cutting down. The internet is vile. Maya never just gives. Maya gives with one hand and takes with 10. So we're thinking we're getting so much from the internet, but the internet is taking so much of our attention, so much of our thought, so much of our life, and bringing in so many unwanted things. So what can we do? One thing you can do, there are several things you can do with the internet, since you asked about that, and since the internet is like enemy number one for sadhana and spiritual absorption.
Yeah.
You can limit, the key is to limit one's use. So if we just say stop, you won't do it. But we can say, for example, till 9 o'clock, keep your laptop off. 9 o'clock is practical for you according to your occupation. Otherwise, 8 o'clock or whatever works. But not that we get up and first thing we check our email, we cruise around. or we chant japa with one hand and check out the news with the other hand. What's the best way to keep that from happening? Just keep your computer off. Just till whatever hour that is, say 9 o'clock, it's just off. Because you know that when you turn it on, everything will still be there. There's nothing that urgent. Sometimes, yes, I'm in a 24-hour urgent service. Okay, that's different, but it's routine business. Nothing's urgent. Whatever you might have seen at 7 o'clock, you can see at 9 o'clock. Whatever you might have received 2 hours earlier, you can see 2 hours later. Nothing's that urgent. So just keep it off. And then your time is there. It's yours. You've reclaimed it. And you can devote that time for the things that are really meant to be done at that hour, for hearing, for chanting, for intense concentration on sadhana, devotional service. So that's the easiest thing. Just keep it off. And then you do the thing in the evening after such and such hour. You just shut it down. It's a little harder because it's already on, and then to turn it off takes time. But you know that, all right, now it's 9 o'clock, 9:30, whatever it is, 8 o'clock, off it goes. Really better.
Yeah.
That's one practical thing. It's a very powerful light built into every computer. It's called the off button. Not the button, it's not the suspend button, it's the off button.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to check out something, you've got to reboot. Go through all that level. Off. That's the first that you can use to your advantage. The second one is, if you know that you go to whatever the sports channel is, or whatever the news channel is, or whatever site it is that you waste time on, you can take advantage of blockers.
Yeah.
Or it's leech. The way they work is that you key in, these are the sites that are leeches. A leech is like a little worm that like a slug practically, that drinks your blood.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want your time to be leached away by these sites. So you block them. These leech block or similar programs let you specify, all right, New York Times, blocked. Whatever the sports channel is, blocked. This blocked, that blocked. And if you really need to see them, then all right, quota, 10 minutes a day.
Makes sense.
Or between the hours of X and Y. They're blocked. So that saves you, because, yeah, there's a way around it, but you've got to go through all that trouble again. And before that time, you probably come to your senses and say, I'm blocked here for a good reason.
Makes sense.
So you can take advantage of these programs developed by the materialists who have the same problem. They have something to do. It's not Krishna consciousness, but they see that their time is being wasted. So you can employ such programs. The off button, leech blockers, that's on one side. And if you've got more serious problems, the parental controls.
Yes.
Or parental controls, and give someone else the key so that you don't have it, because the internet can lead to those problems also.
Mm-hmm.
So, and getting rid of things from your computer, solitaire, delete, whatever the other games are, delete stuff from your computer that doesn't help you, that's unfavorable for devotional service. So, you make your computer environment more controllable, more friendly to Krishna consciousness. So that's on that side. That's the negative side. Subtract, 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 subtract. And the positive side, give yourself more Krishna consciousness. Make a program for regular hearing, chanting. If you're a family man, make time for the family to sit down and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, to have kirtan. Be always engaged in some useful activity, so that what is this internet? We don't have time for the internet. We have this program, we have that program. And the result should be that by having such constant engagement, even if you have spare time, you have a taste for a greater taste for Krishna consciousness. So you're not, why should I watch the news? Why should I do this?
Yeah.
So on the one side, defense from the super powerful home invasion by the internet. Not only invades your home, it invades your mind. So protection against that, and on the positive side, the ultimate protection, to be absorbed in programs for Krishna consciousness, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. Is that okay?
Yes. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much for all these practical instructions. I will implement.
Very
Thank you.
good.
Hare Krishna.
Something else? Prabhuji, on one hand, we know, let's see. Okay, I have to get a chat box up here. Okay. Maharaj, sometimes people may become a little casual in their behavior and lifestyle because the mindset is Krishna consciousness is above all rules and regulations. And while there is logic to this, it's dangerous as it can result in complacency and inappropriate behavior. How to deal with devotees appropriately when this may be the case? Well, it's not that Krishna consciousness is above all the rules and regulations. That's when you're a Paramhansa. Then maybe you're above all the rules and regulations. Otherwise, in the lesser stages, one is not at all above the rules and regulations. Rather, one is under greater rules and regulations, under the discipline of the spiritual master, under spiritual discipline. So how is it no rules and regulations? No, a greater rule and regulation. That we have to understand. Is that okay? Prabhuji, on one hand, we know that human life is blessed. We got this life so we can do bhakti. And on the other hand, we are here in the material world to suffer. How do we see about it? Well, we're here in the material world because of neglect of bhakti, because of neglect of Krishna. If you turn your face toward the light, you're in the light. If you turn your face to the darkness, you're in the darkness. So we have to turn our face to the light. Tamasi ma jyotir kama. That's the conclusion. So for that, we have this whole process of Krishna consciousness, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Is that okay? Anything else?
Hare Krishna devotees, if you have other questions, please go ahead and ask.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, I have a question. In this verse, it is said that we have to do tapasya for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So tapasya, when we are doing, what should be our mood, or what kind of tapasyas is recommended? Can you please?
No gambling, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication. That's the first thing. 4 regulative principles. Those are the basic tapasyas. Strictly follow the 4 regulative principles. And then there are lesser principles. Not to eat food, not to eat food cooked by non-devotees, not to indulge in useless association with non-devotees, not to hear useless topics. So many things are there. Our tapasya is not very difficult. It's not that we are plucking the hairs out of our body or starving ourselves. That kind of tapasya is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Mamatma paradehe shu pradvishanto vyasuyaka. The tapyante te ye tapojana dumb pain art like that. The people who are doing severe tapasya simply out of pride are actually causing pain to me. They're causing me pain. The parents don't like to see the child suffer. So our tapasya is not very difficult. We fast on some days. Today's Ekadasi. So on the Ekadasi, no grains or beans. If you want to fast beyond that, that's also all right. You can chant more, hear more in this way. Our real tapasya is to be, is happy tapasya, to be engaged in the service of Krishna and to tolerate the troubles of this world and be always engaged in Krishna consciousness. Okay, I have to go to the chat again. Hard on the phone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, would you like for me to read the question for you? Would that be easier?
The human never got the opportunity to be in the spiritual environment, an opportunity. How do we see to that human birth as a good thing? Why is that question? You have a human birth. You have the opportunity for a spiritual environment. What do you care about someone who doesn't have that opportunity? You have it. You have it. So some hypothetical person somewhere doesn't have any spiritual environment. So that's a different thing. But you have it. So what do you care about that case? We have to make use of our own, what we've been given, and not distract ourselves with hypothetical cases. All right. So we've reached 8:20. I think we can stop here.
Hare Krishna, devotees. Are there any other questions, or is it? If no one else has any other questions, we can end the call now. So thank you again, Maharaj, for your valuable time and association and for joining us on this call today. And devotees, let's all pay our obeisances to Maharaj and to all of the devotees. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhyevacha patita nam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you.
Dandvat Pranam Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
Hare
Dandvat.
Krishna.
Dandvat
Thank you
Pranam.
for a wonderful class.
Radhe Radhe Maharaj, Danvat.
Hare
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much.
People, Danvat.
Ending the call, devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone.